Well, hello there. My name is Pastor Matt West, and I am joined today by Pastor Jackie Raineri from Downriver UMC and Pastor Kim Metzer from Hope UMC in Hastings. And we are taking a deeper look today at the scripture from Genesis chapter 18, verses 1 through 15 as part of our God's Creative Connection series, and where this last Sunday, June 7th, we focused on creative hospitality. Pastor Kim, would you mind sharing a part of that passage with us today?
Sure. I will read the whole thing. No, I'm kidding. I will read verses 2 and 3 out of Genesis chapter 18, and I'm reading out of the New Living Translation. He looked up, and he is Abraham. He looked up and noticed 3 men standing nearby. When he saw them, he ran to meet them and welcomed them, bowing low to the ground. "My Lord," he said, "if it pleases you, stop here for a while."
All right. So it's two verses out of the passage we shared this past Sunday, but we thought it was certainly a good introduction to our conversation today, as I said, focusing on creative hospitality. And Pastor Jackie, you wanna go beyond what Pastor Kim read, as far as maybe just kind of cluing us in on the rest of what we didn't read.
So you want to dig a little deeper into our thing, or
we are live, and this is as real as it's going to get, folks.
This is genuine.
This is what happens when you put 3 pastors together and try to organize a conversation.
Well, I want to talk a little bit more about hospitality, because that's near and dear to my heart. That was actually my first career, was the hospitality field. When I realized I wasn't going to be a rock star with my tambourine, I knew I had to find something where I could make money. So I decided to go. I wanted to
Tambourine wouldn't make you money? What?
I wanted to be in a rock band, and I thought I'd be my own little band with my tambourine, but it didn't work out. And so I decided to go into, after I watched The Love Boat for how many years, I was going to go on an adventure.
The things we learned. We're going deeper into Jackie's life today.
I know, I need to analyze. But I decided it was my cousin's husband, Greg. He was like, "You need to go into this field and work in the hotels and restaurants, and you'll get to meet all kinds of people and do all kinds of things, and it'll be great. You'll love it." So I went to school for it, and I did. I loved it. But I worked in some unusual places. I worked in some, pretty crazy places. And it just seemed a lot of the places that I happened to get employed at were, for instance, this resort I worked at in Florida that was called South Seas Plantation. And I was part of a manager training program, and I mostly stayed in housekeeping for some reason. I was in housekeeping. And I had to train the housekeepers who spoke French and Spanish. I knew neither, and it was very interesting working there. But our clientele was all celebrities. Our clientele was, so we had to, we couldn't think of them as celebrities. We just, but then there was people, just regular people who weren't celebrities, that stayed at the resort as well. It was a timeshare place. And one day I was driving my golf cart from one condo to the next condo and I had 2 gentlemen stop me, and they were young guys actually, and they stopped me, and they were kind, and they were good. I'll admit it, that's the real me. And they asked me for ice. They're like, "Where can we get ice around this place?" And I was like, "Come on back, I'll show you." So I let them get on the golf cart, and I took them back to the employee area, and we had a big ice bin for all the employees that worked there. So I showed them where the ice was, and I said, if no one's out here, whatever, help yourself to it, and so forth. So they helped themselves. They were always, they always found me, because they were in my area, and asked me questions. "Where do we get this?" So I was always showing them things to do. I had no idea who these guys were. Very nice. We had a great conversation. And when they left, they ended up leaving me a T-shirt. And it turned out that these 2 young, good-looking guys were from the group Loverboy. One was a drummer.
Okay, hold on, pause. So for those of you that weren't born in the 80s, Loverboy is a Canadian-based rock band that was known for a couple of big songs back in the heyday, and women went quite wild over their lead singer. But I'm sure a lot of you have probably never even heard of Loverboy. Back to our story. Go ahead, Jackie.
But the part was, they said that they loved talking to me because I talked to them like a real person. I showed them hospitality, but I didn't show them hospitality because they were the drummer and the guitar player for Loverboy. Didn't get to meet the lead singer. Maybe I would have got clued in them who he was, but who they were, I should say. But it was nice, and it was like, you know, I was just doing my everyday business. I didn't feel I went out of my way, but they thought I went out of my way, and they couldn't thank me enough that I showed them. Too bad we don't have Facebook back then in the 80s, as Matt wanted to gladly rub that in. Because I probably would have been a stalker, but it would have been.
Probably.
Did they tell you they were loving every minute of it?
Yeah. And I was working for the weekend, you know, what can I say?
Yeah, I'm sure every young person that might venture to watch this deeper discussion on Genesis and hospitality is going, who's Loverboy and what are you talking about?
But you know the 80s are popular now, so
They are. And we've kind of like done that full circle.
it really has.
You
Yeah.
realize like music from the 70s and 80s is like what 50s music was to us when we were kids.
Right. Well,
It's classic now.
60s.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, it's kind of crazy to think about it that way, but
It is. But as much as things have changed, like we said, it all comes full circle and there's so many things that haven't changed, like hospitality, which we're talking about today. And the way that Abraham showed hospitality to God before he knew it was God, just like Jackie showed hospitality to the band members before she never knew they were the band members until after they left. And in the scripture we're in today, Abraham just really went out of his way to serve these travelers that happened upon their tent. To the point
we know as the reader, because it tells us right away, God appeared to Abraham.
Right.
But he has
So we know.
no idea. Like,
Yeah.
like,
He had no clue.
And
You know,
lots of
and-
employees at
not
the
as if, like,
complex
he was
knew
in touch.
about the Loverboy people, but Jackie didn't. So, very similar. Very similar.
and it's not like as if like Abraham had the title of like hospitality director. You know, it's not like he was gopher on the Love Boat. I mean, he saw three people outside of his tent and like got up and was like, I better go see who's here and like take care of them. You know,
Right.
no idea who they were, but he's
Mhm.
like, I'm gonna, you know, he offers them water and shade. You know, gets him some cheese curds and milk and you know, a fresh calf off the slaughter block. You know, and it's like, hey, this guy's taking care of us,
Right.
and he has no idea who we are. You know, imagine. I guess you know, I didn't think about this before, but it's like just imagine like being God. Like put yourself in God's shoes and being like, he's got no clue, but man, he's taking great care of me.
This is a good guy. Yeah.
So, you know, what about, let's talk a little bit more about Sarah. You know, she certainly has an interesting part of this story too.
Right.
I mean, obviously the primary focus is the hospitality that Abraham extends face to face, but what about Sarah's part in this story?
Right. Yeah. They pull her out. They ask about her. So how funny is that when I just thought about this. So there's these three random people that stop at the tent, and then all of a sudden they're asking about Sarah. Well, how do they know about Sarah? Other than Abraham had ordered her around and gave her specific directions on how to make the bread for them. They call her out by
light
name.
doesn't come on for him. He's like, how the heck does he know Sarah?
Right. Yeah, I don't know.
Right.
Yeah, that's not in here.
Go ahead. Yeah, you were asking about Sarah. Yeah.
But you
They
see,
said,
that
"Where's your wife Sarah?" And he said, "There in the tent." So, and then
Right. But that should have been a clue because,
right.
see, in the chapter before that, that's when God would change their names
Right.
to Abraham and Sarah. So no one else knew their names but God and Abraham and Sarah. And so they're asking for Sarah, and he's still like, well, she's over there. Like,
Where? She's in the tent.
We'll chalk it up to desert heat. It does things to the mind.
Yes.
Sarah,
Right.
Sarai, whatever.
So, but then when they say that your wife shall have a son, do you think that would have flipped him out at all? No.
Right.
Like,
yeah, you're like the second Joker that's tried to tell me that. Yeah.
Right.
Right.
I'm 99 years old. It ain't happening.
It ain't gonna happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like how so now I'm reading out the NRSV and says, now Abraham and Sarah were old, advanced in age. It had ceased to be with Sarah after the manner of women. Interesting way of saying that they're just not doing it anymore.
Okay, so let's think about this.
Sorry, I had to go there.
Let's put this in perspective for
we are going deeper.
So, how many times have the two of you been like at home and your husband's either got a buddy over or you got company over and you're in the other room and you hear them talking and they just say something that like you can't help but laugh because like you think it's outlandish. Mm-hmm. But then it ends up being something like that comes to fruition and you're just like, I'll be danged. Like, I mean, Sarah's sitting there, she's in the tent, as they're out there enjoying what she's prepared. And she's like, here's this like, yeah, I'm going to be back in a year. And guess what? She's going to have a kid.
Right.
Wait, what?
Yeah. Tell me another funny one.
Right. Guys,
how many years have I been waiting and it just hasn't happened?
And then that's when you see on the screen like 1 year later, and then she's like, yes, I'm the fool. So I mean, what's this really mean though in terms of we have the sermon title Creative Hospitality that we used this past Sunday. What's so creative about this? Like we've talked to our churches, our congregations about hospitality, some of us more than others, but where are we going or where's the creative aspect of this?
I think it's in using our gifts. For a lot of us, it's what we do. If we're having people over, we want things to be just so. The house cleaned, the food prepared just the right way, the table set, and that's how we show people that they're welcome. For others, it might be, welcome to my mess, but that's the way they make people comfortable is, I'm no better than you, so hey, join me in how I live. So it's in using how you are to make people comfortable, and that's all hospitality is the comfort. That's why Abraham went out of his way to use the best things so that they would feel comfortable and feel cared for. I guess cared for would be a better, and in the hotel environment, it was helping people get ice and making sure their rooms are comfortable and the creative ways we do that. And how does that apply to our churches? How do we care for people and make people feel welcome in our churches? Especially now that we're not in our churches at the moment.
Right. And it kind of reminds me of like that favorite relative that you'd like to go visit and how they made you feel. And, and it wasn't always about the food and drink, even though like that's triggers to me because that was a job I had, but there's so many ways that creative, that hospitality can be, and it's inviting someone maybe into even a Zoom call. Hey, maybe it sounds familiar to you too. Hey, we're playing Yahtzee on Thursday night. Why don't you come and join us? But it's just that those are different ways to be creative, especially now that we are in this type of situation. But, reach out to someone and just invite them into a Zoom call or, into a small group that could be going on, or even,
So let me ask you this. I guess, should hospitality be treated any differently than maybe any other spiritual practice that we do to draw closer to God?
That's a good question.
Because let me expand upon that. And so my thing is you go to a restaurant because there's something that they're good at, or because they take care of you every time you go there. Like for me, one quick example, I'm not a big Red Lobster fan. My wife loves it, but I'll go just because I want my wife to be happy. But when we've been fortunate enough where we've had the same waiter a couple of times, the last couple of times we went, who's just phenomenal. And no matter how busy or not busy that he was, he just took extreme care of us as he did the next table, or, any other time that he would do it. So I'm thinking, like, we want that treatment when we go to those special places. Mm-hmm. Why wouldn't we do that any differently in our churches? But the problem is we're the server now.
Right.
So that's where, like, I think that's where we have to become creative, because you think about places that you go and what makes them unique. So now I go back to my question to you. Do we treat it any differently than any other aspect of our spiritual lives, or as lives, followers of Christ? Or do we treat it probably just as equally or the same, or with as much responsibility?
I think you give it more, only because the action of it.
Right.
The action of it being inviting. And that's, I think, should take more than some of your other things that, that we do within the church, within our ministry life, or within our church life. And I think it's just, we do need to, because I think it comes in so many different forms, hospitality, that I think no matter what area we are in ministry, we need to take it that extra step. We need to make it sure that, even as we speak, as we preach, and we need to make sure that we invite everyone into our message. And even though it may be a topic of hospitality, it needs to fit everybody. There needs to be a part of hospitality that fits everybody, not just a certain group of people. There should be something in it for everybody. So I think no matter where we go in the church, no matter what position you are in the church, hospitality needs to really be a main focus of what we do.
Right. And a lot of times, it's getting out of our comfort zone.
Yes.
We have to be uncomfortable so that others can be comfortable. Right. I often use the line, comfort the afflicted and afflict the comfortable. Yeah, comfort the afflicted and afflict the comfortable. But it's, we, especially as we're starting to look at going back into our buildings. Mm-hmm. Why do we want to go back into our buildings? Is it so that we can be comfortable, or so that we can further the ministry that we're engaged in? We have to really get to our why. Why are we doing this? And is it going to make me uncomfortable to stay online for a few more weeks so that the ones we are trying to reach feel comfortable about when they come back?
Right.
And true hospitality is getting out of your comfort zone and doing it for someone else.
Absolutely.
I've told people before that as a pastor, my job's no different than Jesus's, where my job's to make the comfortable uncomfortable.
Yes.
And so the one thought while you two were talking, is like, okay, we all think of it as being embarrassing, but when deep down, when you think about how much do you love it when the servers come out and sing happy birthday to you at a restaurant, like, you're like, oh gosh, like, no, I don't want, no, don't, oh, you didn't tell them it was my birthday. And then you're like, that was kind of cool. Imagine coming into church on a Sunday and like the congregation walking up to somebody and be like, happy birthday. Like, that church was awesome. Like, happy birthday to me.
Yeah.
That's what goes on in this big melon up here sometimes, but
Sometimes we wonder.
But I mean, that's but it's also, as you were saying, going beyond ourselves, because
right.
what we do not only makes our guests happy or people who come into our places of worship happy, but it makes God happy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, really, that's the bottom line is like God it's not about necessarily pleasing God, but God seeing like what he's asking us in action.
Yes.
As opposed to being complacent and being like, I'm good. Well, you're good, but what about the next person?
Right. It's really putting our faith in action. Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And for people to see us, as God, not that we are God, but
right.
Being in the image of God, that we are, sharing hospitality with everyone.
We are his hands, feet, and voice.
Yes, we are.
We're called to be.
Yep.
So as we begin to wrap up our conversation, any final thoughts about our passage or about this idea of creative hospitality you want to share with those that may be watching? The stumper of the day.
How to wrap it up? I
got us to stop talking.
I guess just always be ready for the surprise. You just you could be serving an angel. Jesus said, when you are serving the least of these, you're serving me. Yep. Just as Jackie didn't know that she was serving some famous bandmates, and Abraham didn't know he was serving God, we never know who we're really serving. So we need to be hospitable to everybody.
Absolutely.
So.
Any other thoughts, Pastor Jackie?
Oh, sure, put me on the spot. But no, I mean, Kim said it best. We always have to be prepared, and because it's never going to be like we think it's going to be. It's never going to be that smooth Sunday or that smooth day that we think like, oh, I mean, think about when before we got on our call here, we're like, our day didn't go as we thought it was. Right. But we still, we were still the hands and feet and voice of God, and we, still reached out to other people, and we were still hospitable to those that weren't part of the plan, as
right.
That's right. Well, I certainly want to thank Pastor Kim and Pastor Jackie. And again, my name is Pastor Matt.
Thank you, Pastor Matt.
And so this has been fun, and we hope to continue to do this. And we encourage you to carry on the conversation. So feel free to watch this again. Engage with others about this passage from Genesis and Abraham about creative hospitality. And we'll be back again next week and share some more with you. But until next time, peace be with you.